Welcome to the Refueling Station Live. I am your host, Dr. Erin Wheeler. I'm an executive leadership coach and CEO of gracefullyproductive.com. The Refueling Station is a place where leaders of color can gain inspiration to live, be, and do well. I'm so glad you're here, whether you're joining me again or you are joining for the first time. I thank you and I appreciate you for tuning in and staying with me till the end, because if you stay with me till the end, I will make sure that if you're ready to take this journey of executive leadership coaching, I'll be sharing an exclusive offer for my signature coaching program, Revive and Thrive. I'm so excited about it. But I want to talk to you today about soul care. And then after we talk about soul care, I'll share a little bit with you about Revive and Thrive. So, soul care. You've probably heard about self care. Probably heard about self care till you're blue in the face. And you are wondering, self care, I don't have time for it. I am too tired to do it. And massages and manicures are not going to cure how I'm feeling at this time. I get you. And that's why the topic of soul care is so important to me. Now, when I fully grasp this, I, I'm a I'm not a visual person, but I need pieces to go together. And so once I heard this concept of how the soul is explained and how it connects back to everything, whether it's mind, body, then everything clicked for me. So self care is all really about your physical. If we think about three parts of human being, living things, we're mind, body, and so we're body, soul, and spirit. And so if we think about self-care as being for the body, making sure the physical piece of us is well maintained from the inside out, our organs, our skin, our brain, everything, that is self-care. But also, we tend to neglect the other pieces of us. Of course, the spirit, we there's all sorts of things you can do to keep up with your spirit man. What about the soul? And I do this for I have a variety of leaders who listen to and tune in. But from my experience, and most of the people who are watching are in social impact work, whether it's DI at corporations, or you're in education or medicine or mental health or nonprofit work or higher education or education, you are in front lines of helping individuals. You cannot ignore certain pieces. And this work that we do in social impact, or even just regardless of that, when you go into a job and you do so long, 8 and it has to engage different parts of you, there's no way you can leave your soul out. But for social impact leaders who are working on the front lines to make people's lives better, to help human beings, it taxes the soul. You don't know how, you sometimes don't know why, and you don't even know when you're impacted. But when I talk to people about burnout, and even in my own experience, there was something that I could, okay, Aaron, change your diet, run, exercise, do all those things. You're supposed to, but once I did that and started to get that, I still had a cloud of heaviness on me because something in my soul was not right. And that sounds deep, but I could make it more practical. So at the point where I was most burned out, I felt stifled in my career. I could not, I knew I was a creative, innovative person. I was working inside of a traditional higher ed institution. Of course, things move slow. Of course, we couldn't help the students. I knew I had a viable solution. I could see all the solutions, but I couldn't get it to them. I was not at that level, and I wasn't able to do it. So me seeing problem after problem, knowing and seeing the issues and not being able to help that was taxing. That was one of the reasons I was like, is this really for me? Is this job really for me? Is this isn't how I saw my career and higher education going. One of the other things is that again, my mind, um, the thoughts that I was having about where I was supposed to be in, and I was not able to grow, and I was not able to have a place. I wasn't at a place where I could process my thoughts. It was a lot of stuff. And so all of that has to do with the soul. And before I get too deep in it, let me break down what the soul is. So I have not found this anywhere explained in this way. If you look up Dr. Ivy Hilliard, he is a pastor and a businessman and a very smart and incredibly intelligent man. Yes, he's the man of the cloth, but he's also um, he studies. He studies and he writes, and his thought leadership on different topics I totally respect. And he's one person's bought around all of these things and click. Remember, I said I need things to click. I need pieces to come together. And when he shares his knowledge, pieces click. And so when he shared this, he shared it in a way in talking about how we can transform on the inside out, starting with our thoughts. But he connected psychology in different pieces together that I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. So I'm going to share his perspective. You can look him up. But so his perspective, he outlines the soul as five components: your mind, your will, your imagination, your intellect, and your emotions. Sound familiar, right? We've always heard these pieces just being everywhere, but not necessarily put together in one package. So the five components again of the soul: the mind, the will, the emotions, the intellect. Let me go through them one by one, and I want you to see how soul care can help elevate your leadership, not only you for personal growth, but if we're not taking care of our soul, we are not we are going to be very poor leaders. And you've dealt with some leaders who have not done soul care. They are not the friendliest, they are the meanest, and you can tell that they are going through something because they are taking it out on everybody, right? So you have to have, and they are, you probably literally call them, they are soulless, they are evil. Don't become that person. You can easily become that person if we neglect the part of us that gives us our humanity. So let's start with the mind. So the mind shapes our thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions by fostering a growth mindset. So we break free from limiting beliefs, no matter where those limits were placed, whether they're placed by society, our family, our circle, just generational messaging that we've had as people of color. So soul care involves cultivating a positive mental landscape. Now, I'm not talking about that toxic positivity where everything's just bright and sunny. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about a mental landscape that helps you to be resilient, and enables you to tackle challenges with clarity, creativity, and confidence, and none you don't have any bias, and bias not in terms of people, but bias by your own experience. So what happens with our mind is that whether it's work trauma, personal trauma, childhood trauma, negative experiences, for some reason our brains don't work to where we immediately go to positive experience. We go to those negative, and that's where we pitch our tent, and that's what guides out everything else. So your mind is important because that's where we capture all the imprint of our past experiences have an impact. And if you don't get your right, I literally had a college presentation to my first year babies that literally said, get your mind right. Like you got to adopt a new mindset for this college thing. But I knew that that was key to getting them to succeed in the first year. And that's also key in getting you to succeed as a leader, but also be a transformational leader. If you don't take time to deal with your not only your mental health, but just your mind, how you think, your behavior, how you come across as a person, how you show up as a leader will be impacted. And 9 times out of 10, when I'm talking to clients, I'm talking to people who are burned out. And what they tell me is that, they don't have time. It's just not there. How do I do it? You have to make time to deal with your mind. So that means prioritizing therapy. That means prioritizing self reflection. That means part of your personal growth and professional growth is sitting down, whether it's a coach or a group or something to where you can tackle the experiences and traumas that's happened to you, and you can tackle your mindset of how you see things, the pattern of your thoughts. You can evaluate it. You can begin to do some mental transformation, but all of that has to do with your mind. Next is your will. Your willpower drives your intentionality and your determination. Soul care means aligning your will and your value, fostering inner coherence, and empowering purposeful action. So, what that means is that our values should be our anchor. And most times, when people are burnt out, your values don't align with the culture and atmosphere of your organization or whoever you're around. Whoever's causing this mental um this cognitive dissonance where it just doesn't match up, you just can't make sense of it. That it means that your will or your values, your determination, your inner drive is out of alignment with where you are. So it just causing this. When I'm talking about this, I'm thinking about like something just ping ponging. Is there's no order. It's just you're not stable. Um, you're just in this place that's not peaceful inside, right? And so by mastering self-discipline and awareness, we can channel our willpower towards meaningful goals and driving impactful leadership. One of the things that I do, whether it's in my live experiences or in one-on-one or my workshops, what I talk about is using your personal mission is one of the things you need for clarity. If you don't know what you stand for, what you believe in, what you want your life to represent, you're going to be all over the place with making decisions, how you show up, and you're going to come across as inauthentic. And most times, if you don't know your values, you're just going to go to a job or an organization, be like, okay, pay me. And then you're wondering why the fight, every time you say something, every time you mention something, it just doesn't hit. And you're questioning yourself and your ability. But is it that the values and even the organization's philosophy and way of thinking and doing things are not parallel to how you do it? So it's always going to be like you're a disruptor. Some people like disrupting, but you can get a whole lot done if everybody's going in the same direction, not mindlessly or like cultish, but if we're all aligned and we're accepting everybody's thoughts and perspectives, then we're all going to go at this. We're all going to be aligned and achieve our goals, right? So your will, your values, get clear on those and make sure wherever you are, whatever you participate in, whether it's your family, your church, your business, reflects your values. If you're out of line, that's going to be tugging at weighing heavy on your soul. Intellect is the third component. Our intellect enables us to reason, analyze, and discern. Soul care involves sharpening our intellectual faculties. So learning, if you don't make time to learn, whether it's through podcasts, books, professional development, all of these things, that is soul care. And most times we don't make time for that, right? And so it could be as simple as, okay, if I'm driving to work, I'm not going to take a call then. I'm going to dedicate this time to listening to my favorite book, podcast, or something where I'm myself to learn. If we don't stop and think about the little times we can do to feed our soul, then it's almost impossible for us to see how this can be done in the course of our day. And another thing that concerns me about uh, leaders, especially in nonprofit and education worlds where the resources are limited, most times our professional development dollars are limited, but that doesn't stop us from investing in ourselves. That is part of soul care. So whether you can't go to the conference or you know you need to learn something new, if they say they don't have it, you can argue, fight, and tussle all you want, but make sure you have a plan to get it done. And even if it doesn't have to cost money or it can cost minimal, hey, you can't send me to this conference, then let me expense this book that I have. Let me take time to read some journal articles. Let me take time to do this or bring in this, like figure out how you can improve your professional development, but also know that I need to be responsible for my own personal and professional development. I need time, space, and opportunity to improve my intellect through learning and gaining diverse perspectives. And as leaders, we if we can learn from others and enjoy the process, enjoy listening even to the people who we think don't have titles, listening to your front line, that is so important in being a transformational leader, not just any leader. Fourth, we have our emotions. Our emotions are expressions of our inner experiences. Soul care nurtures emotional intelligence and self awareness, allowing us to navigate emotions authentically. So, no longer are leaders, the model for leaders is, hey, don't show any emotion. Don't wear it on your face. Don't tell your team you're scared. Don't tell them this. That's out, because people want real leaders. And if you don't know how to, one, figure out your emotions, process it, don't suppress it, process it, name it, figure out why you're doing it. And if you can discipline yourself not to let your emotions rule your reason, then you're able to show up as an emotionally sound person. An emotionally sound person can sense emotions in others. And as a transformational leader, you're able to understand the emotions of others where they are, but also respond to that. That is empathy. That's how we show up as that is emotionally intelligence. Respond, controlling our own emotions, but able to discern and respond to others' emotions. If we're able to master our own emotions through self-care, through um monitoring and figuring out and giving ourselves time to decompress and self monitor, self reflect, we can create a very safe and culturally inclusive environments, because we're now getting down to that human level, and we can build trust when you're able to tame emotions of others, when you're able to soothe people in a crisis, to get them to think clearer in a crisis, to get them to not be overwhelmed and not and to be up in arms in crisis. You have mastered transformational leadership. And most of the places that I've named before, education, higher education, medicine, DEI world is up in arms. It's always a fire. And if you're able to navigate people through a fire mentally and emotionally, you will have their respect and you will come off as authentic and trustworthy. And lastly, my favorite, imagination. I'm always like, what does my imagination fit into me? Like, why is that important? And I felt like when I'm using my imagination, whether it's to solve problems or just be creative, I am at my best. When I started setting my own non negotiables, I named being able to be creative and innovative without fear of retaliation. I actually said that to a person who was recruiting me for my first big girl job. I said, I'm only coming if you allow me to try things out, be creative, and not expect immediate results or not make it feel like I failed. That I just need room to create. Is that okay? I did what I needed to do, and I felt like when I was in that role and I was allowed to just do and be and try things out without saying, "Well, that didn't work, scrap the whole thing." I was in my element. I was in my zone. I allowed my team to be creative. I removed that limit of fear and of failure and fear. I removed that so they can think out of the box so we can help students show up and succeed at college. So, imagination fuels creativity and innovation. Soul care encourages us to tap into our creative potential and envision bold possibilities for the future. By embracing curiosity and forward thinking, we inspire others to dream big and co create a better world together. So, imagination, emotions, will, intellect, and your mind are your five components of soul care, the five components of the soul. How does this relate back to leadership, which is our main topic, right? So, when we take care of our soul, all of those components, we improve our well being, right? So, we can have a sense of peace. We are clear about who we are, what we believe. We can imagine and uh, we can exercise creative solutions so it doesn't feel like our backs are against the wall and that we're hopeless. So that sense of hopelessness goes away, which is how we feel when we're burnt out and we don't feel like things are getting any better, especially those who are direct on the front line of fighting social injustice. So when you're in the thick of things and you don't do um your will, like you feel that more determined and you can press forward. All of those pieces help you become resilient and push through so you can be the transformational leader who can lead people through a crisis as much as you can prevent them, but you can lead them through a crisis and you can envision a future. And it's not just putting out fires, but you can lead them to the bigger picture. What we all want is a better, fair, more equitable system, a better life for our kids and a better life for our community. That's what we want. But when we are not doing that soul care, we're not thinking clearly, we're feeling negatively, we're not our determination is down, and our creativity, you just want to see, we're just thinking about what's right here and right now. That's when we just kind of fold and we burn out and we don't come back to it, even though we have a potential to change lives and change the system. And lastly, soul care and leadership cultivates authenticity. So when you connect and you do the soul care work, it makes your humanity is on front street. And when you are showing up as a human, as a true human, not a humanoid, not a robot as what people want us to be. We want, old leadership models. Hey, show up, don't let them see your emotions, don't let them see you sweat, right? Don't spare nobody. Do this at all costs, no matter if it does affect anybody's humanity or hurts them and make them feel less than. That's old leadership model. New leadership model, people are craving authentic leaders, people who can see their human selves succeed above limitations. That's what people want. Transformational leadership, it is important that you show up as your true authentic self. And when I was able to do this, again, my conversation was, I didn't know that back then, but my conversation, my non negotiables fell in line with the five components. And that was when I found my power. I found my true leadership voice and I was able to show up as me. And even though I did have some pushback, was like, oh, Dr. Willie's like everybody wanted to come work for my team because they heard I was nice. I was nice. I had rules and standards, but if you could not get with the overall team identity, if you couldn't be forward thinking, if you couldn't push yourself and look past the challenges, if everything was negative coming out of your mouth, that then we release people, right? To go wherever else, but you didn't quite fit in with this. But I was able, even in that, I still made sure releases were done in a humane sense. I still thought about their strengths and where they could go and say, "Hey, you're being released from the university." No, we had thoughtful conversations about their strengths and where they could fit in and being better. So authenticity is super important as a leader. You need to show up as the real you, flaws and all. Be clear about who you are, how you think, your values. Use your imagination. Don't be afraid to use it. Some people are afraid to dream and tell their vision because they might fear people are talking about them. You need to show up as your whole self and wear your humanity not just on your sleeve, but put it on Front Street. So here are my tips. I always say it's easier said than done, but it's truly possible. All of these things are easy and you want to do them. They probably make sense, but I know you're pushing back. You're going to push back on me when I tell you, well, when do I have I don't have time for any of that. I want you to make time. So, how do you nurture your soul? I need you to set aside time to do these things. These things include mindful practices, incorporate mindfulness meditation, 5 minutes. I've had some staff that I work for who are very intentional about this. They put it on their calendar. Don't be that leader say, "Well, what are you doing?" No, put it on your calendar. You could use it too. Incorporate deep breathing exercises. One way to do this or make time for this, don't have a whole hour meeting. Start carving those things into 30 or 45-minute and scheduling, leaving yourself 20 to 15 minutes in between tasks or meetings. And you can do a lot in 15 minutes that does the body good. So you could close your eyes for 5, deep breathe for another 5, go get some water for 5, walk around for 5. That's 20 minutes. And that's part of that's doing self-care and soul care, right? Self-reflection. You need to have time at the end or beginning of your day where you can just think. I hate it. I started blocking out. One thing that you can have control over is your own calendar. And if people don't respect your calendar, that's a different conversation, right? So on my calendar, if I'm saying I'm gonna get the job done, no matter how it looks on my calendar, if I'm telling you that and I've showed up in a different and I showed up for you and I delivered, leave me alone. Like that's the requirement that I need to work in. But you need to, I hate it just having an 8 o'clock meeting. I'm just getting to work. I'm not a morning person. The phrase of one of my friends, I haven't thought out by that time. So I started blocking out 8 to 9 or 8 to 9:30 to get my own stuff together. So whether it's reflect on the day before, figure out what I want to do that day, plot out my time, listen to worship music, inspirational, whether sermons or podcasts or something that's the feeding of the soul, the intellect. That's that time. So block that off and pair them with things that you normally do. So self-reflection come at the end of the day. Instead of falling asleep to the TV, pull out your journal, write a few things down. If you need help, I do have a journal for busy professionals that does just that. And I created it for you so it's not blank where you're like, "Oh, what am I writing?" No, it's very defined things that you can jot down that will help you with this. Make time for creative expression. So at the height of one of my craziest jobs, I found one, and I appreciate her for this day. She was an art teacher at heart. She came on as an advisor, and she brought me a coloring book. And so when people saw that I was coloring at my desk, they're like, "What's wrong?" I'll tell you after I finish this page. But it allowed me to one, stimulate my brain. It allowed me to think through solutions. It felt like I was working because I was thinking, but it at the same time, my brain switched to creative. It's so simple if we go back to the kid-like practices, but sometimes us grown-ups take ourselves way too seriously, and that's why we burn ourselves out. But if you adopt some kid-like practices, leave some Play-Doh on your desk, have those little fidget things, have a coloring book. One of my leadership retreats as a team leader, I went to Michael's to buy a paint by numbers thing because we couldn't do the paint and sip at the time. So I was like, I want to do something fun. And so at the end of our 2 day retreat, every day we ended with music and coloring. And you would think that it would be nothing, but we actually thought about some of our best ideas at the end of the day, not during the business part, but when we were coloring and talking and dreaming about what we want our students to have and do, like that works. So whatever is your thing, get back to it. If you're a dancer, back in the day, find a time. Maybe you might want to do a quick Zumba thing, or you may want to go above and beyond and do an adult dance class, or pull out that old instrument that you're a little rusty on. Figure out a way to have creative expression that feels natural to you. Or if you want to challenge yourself to learn something new, same thing. But those are the things you need to keep on your schedule and make time for, because again, that's about maintenance, also a maintenance, but it's also about sustainability, sustaining your soul, sustaining your mind. That's a must. We cannot take those things for granted. Even I have to say, okay, Aaron, it's okay if you're tired, pull out your coloring book, draw a little bit, doodle a little bit, work on a creative project, something that you can get lost in. So I like doing graphics or creating my own things. And so if I do have a creative piece that's not like urgent and necessary for business, okay, let me go and start working back on this workbook that I wanted to, or editing some graphics or doing something that helps me. So soul care, say it with me, is extremely important, and I will make time for it because it's going to make me a better person and a better leader. So, lastly, as I close this out, empathy, humility, and self awareness is key to transformational leadership. And the only way we can do that is through soul care, not self care. Self care is important, but I want you to put soul care right, right with a line. They're both needed on your daily to do list. What did I do for myself and my soul? Empathy, humility, and self awareness. Really important in this day and age. If you want to stand out, if you want to gain respect of your team, if you want to make a big impact, you need people. And the only way that you're going to gain that is with empathy, humility, and self awareness. That's the only way you're going to have consecutive wins, because you're going to always have the rapport and respect of others when you act human, when you act and you show up as your authentic and whole self. So, I didn't mean to go that long, but I love this topic. Thank you so much for joining today's refueling station. I hope you found this discussion on soul care insightful and inspiring. If you're ready to dive deeper into your well being journey and take actionable steps, I want to be your coach. If you never had a coach and you're curious about it, I don't want you to jump in head first. I have discovery calls, and even on some discovery calls, most discovery calls, people leave with some type of clarity and some type of heaviness lifted from them. So I want you to go to gracefullyproductive.com and schedule a discovery call with me to see what I have. A lot of services or formats that I can offer you: one-to-one, virtual. I have live experiences if I'm in your city. I have programs. I have all kinds of things. You just have to, I always customize packages for anyone who wants to work for me, because I know the power of coaching and I know how it is to want to invest in ourselves and do something different. One thing that I want to talk to you about that I kind of spoke about at the top of this video, I'm really excited about my signature coaching program. I've been doing this being a coach for a long, long time, but officially it's gracefully productive, targeted for leadership of professionals and leaders of color. I am on my fourth or fifth year. I can't remember, but I've had several retreats. Of course, I've had one-to-one clients. I've had different group coaching sessions. I've done workshops all across the country. And so I'm pulling out the best of everything and combine it to one signature coaching program. You get your one-to-one coaching sessions, but you also get a community of like-minded people where you can network and meet others who are on this wellness, self-care, soul care journey, as I just talked about, and it's called Revive and Thrive. It's a 4-month self-paced group coaching program. And because I am rolling this out and testing it and refining it, I'm offering a special offer to early adopters. I know these things work. I'm just refining the logistical pieces of it, making sure that I have a program that's built for everyone who it benefits. So I want you to schedule that discovery call. And I want you to not only talk to me about Revive and Thrive, but I also just want to meet you and I want to answer your questions about coaching. And I want you to talk about what areas in your personal and professional life need a little bit of work so I can get you to the next level in your career and your personal life. So schedule discovery call, gracefullyproductive.com, or you can go directly to read about the Revive and Thrive program. Listen, this deal is only going to last for a month. I want you to take advantage of it. Once you discover it, you're going to see that it's definitely, that price is never going to be the same again. So I want you to capture it this time. Be on the ground floor, something new, something exciting. Visit gracefullyproductive.com/revive or schedule a discovery call to talk more about it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Join me next time. Like, share, subscribe to this video, especially if you're on YouTube. I appreciate you. And until next time, take care and keep thriving.